Okay, we will reconvene our November 30th, 2017 meeting. I'd like to, for the first hearing of the Scioto Ridge Crossing LLC Drainage Improvement Petition, I'd like to welcome everyone to the first hearing for the consideration of the Scioto Ridge Crossing LLC Drainage Improvement Petition. There is a sign-in sheet circulating the room. We ask that you sign in, please. I'll review what will happen today. First, we'll hear a report from the county engineer and the Soil and Water Conservation District, take questions from the board. Then we will hear from all those in favor of the petition, and then we will hear from all those opposed to the position. And if you testify, you will be asked to take an oath. We'll continue back and forth. If any new information comes up or additional people wish to speak, take more questions from the board. And then, after listening to testimony and the report of the engineer, the board will decide whether to grant the prayer petition or dismiss the petition. The board considers the following in their decision: whether the board here finds that the proposed improvement is necessary, that it will be conducive to the public welfare, and that it is reasonably certain that the cost of the proposed improvement will be less than the benefit. The board grants the prayer petition. Delaware County engineer will proceed with preparation of plans, reports, and individual schedules of assessments for the project. When plans are complete, a final hearing will be set. Notification of the hearing will be given to landowners, and the board will then consider the project. So that is it, and we will turn it over to...
Me first, so I can
Sorry, what?
read. Please, so I can open it.
Open the hearing.
Oh, yes, of course.
Resolution number 17-1271, public hearing for consideration of the Scioto Ridge Crossing LLC drainage improvement petition filed by Scioto Ridge Crossing LLC.
So move.
Second.
Discussion. Vote.
Vote on motion 17-1271. Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Mrs. Lewis?
Aye.
Mr. Bitten?
Aye.
Resolution number 17-1272, in the matter of approving for a specific occurrence a suspension of Rule 3, speaker registration, Rule 4, limitations, and Rule 7, public comment procedure from the rules governing public comment before the Board of County Commissioners of Delaware County, Ohio.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Vote.
Vote on motion 17-1272. Mrs. Lewis?
Aye.
Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Mr. Bitten?
Aye. All right, the hearing is now open, and now we will turn it over to Brett Bacon from Soil and Water.
Good morning, Commissioners. Brett Bacon, Delaware Soil and Water Conservation District. I will read the first hearing report into the record, and then we will be happy to answer any questions the Commissioners may have. First hearing report, Scioto Ridge Crossing Drainage Petition per ORC 6131, November 30, 2017. This report has been prepared for the preliminary hearing on a drainage improvement petition filed by the Scioto Ridge Crossing LLC on July 6, 2017. The general location and course of the requested improvements is quoted from the petition as follows. Commencing at the western property line of an original 80.696 acre parcel conveyed to Scioto Ridge Crossing in official record 1438, page 1970. Thence west across a 5.98 tract owned by Mark E. and Chris E. Ross, PIN 419-330-020-14000, and a 5-acre tract owned by Thomas and Sharon Cole, PIN 419-330-020-13000, to an existing culvert that crosses section line road extending to where an adequate and sufficient outlet is provided. The following is the nature of the work petitioned as quoted from the petition. To generally improve the drainage, both surface and subsurface, to a good and sufficient outlet by replacing, repairing, or altering the existing improvements as required and or creating new surface and or subsurface drainage mains or laterals as requested by this petition. Petition process. This petition has been submitted according to Section 6131 of the Ohio Revised Code, which authorizes the Board of Commissioners to act on behalf of the benefited property owners to make drainage improvements. If the Board of Commissioners decides to proceed with the project, the costs related to the improvements and the development of plans, report, and schedules are assessed to the landowners in the watershed according to the benefit received to their watershed acreage. These special assessments will be added to the property taxes for each property and can be spread over a maximum of an 8-year period. Property owners may also choose to pay their assessment in a lump sum payment prior to placement on their property taxes. Additionally, the improvements will be placed on the Delaware County Drainage Maintenance Program in perpetuity per ORC Section 6137, and the annual maintenance assessment will appear on property tax statements as a special assessment in the same manner as the construction assessments. These annual maintenance assessments are generally in the range of 2 to 3% of the construction assessment. It should be noted that property owners are only assessed for those improvements that are located downstream from their properties. No property is assessed for improvements located upstream. The public agencies that own rights-of-way for public roads would also be assessed for both construction and maintenance costs in the same manner as private property owners. The decision to approve a petition project is a three-step process. First, a viewing of the proposed improvement is conducted for the Commissioners to familiarize themselves with the watershed and general conditions. The Commissioners conducted the viewing for this project on October 2nd, 2017. Next, a preliminary hearing is held to consider the initial feasibility of the proposal. It is this preliminary first hearing that is before us today. If this petition is approved, a final hearing will be conducted to further consider this petition. At that time, final details such as engineering plans and specifications, cost estimates, and a proposed schedule of assessments will be known. Existing conditions. The Delaware Soil and Water Conservation District and Delaware County Engineers Office have made the following observation using on-site evaluation and a review of available aerial photography, topographic mapping, soils mapping, and existing engineering plans. The Scioto Ridge Crossing watershed, as defined for this hearing, measures 42.29 acres. The current land use in the watershed is predominantly agricultural and rural residential. The existing drainage system is comprised of a broad surface drainage swale that appears to lack a defined shape or channel. A subsurface drain exists that was designed for the agricultural drainage needs of the watershed. Trees and brush appear to be impeding surface water flow to the road culvert under South Section Line Road. The outlet of the subsurface drain is within these trees and brush, but does appear to have freeboard. The petitioner has indicated plans to develop the upper portion of the watershed to a residential subdivision. While the existing drainage system appears to meet current engineering standards for good agricultural drainage and provides some degree of drainage benefit beyond agricultural use, it does not appear that it would function as a good and sufficient outlet for the planned land use of the petitioner. Estimate of cost, factors favorable, unfavorable, benefit versus cost. ORC 6131 requires the county engineer to state in a report factors favorable and unfavorable to a proposed project, estimate the cost of the project, and state an opinion as to whether the benefits of the project exceed the cost. The following information is presented for your consideration. Construction estimate. The proposed project would include the following basic elements: surface drain shaping and grading, seeding and mulching of disturbed areas, storm tile installation, and clearing and snagging. Construction, $69,000. Drainage maintenance, ORC 6137, fund initialization, 5% of the construction estimate, $3,450. Project administration, survey, and engineering, 15% of the construction estimate, $10,350. Total project estimate, $82,800. Notes. It is important to understand that the above estimates are preliminary and made in the absence of a current detailed topographic survey of the project area. Should the project fail to be approved at the final hearing, the benefiting landowners, as defined by ORC 6131, may still be responsible for the cost of project administration, survey, and engineering design. Assessments. If the project moves forward to the second hearing, the Ohio Revised Code instructs the county engineer to calculate the assessments to individual property owners based on the benefits received from the improvements for the various properties in the watershed. ORC 6131 states that, quote, uplands that have been removed from their natural state by deforestation, cultivation, artificial drainage, urban development, or other man-made causes shall be considered as benefited by an improvement required to dispose of the accelerated flow of water from the uplands. Benefits are further defined by the ORC as, quote, elimination or reduction of damage from flood, removal of water conditions that jeopardize public health, safety, or welfare, and increased value of land resulting from the improvement. Individual parcel assessments are not calculated for the preliminary hearing and are only calculated if the petition moves forward to the second or final hearing. Per the attached letter, the petitioner has indicated their desire to have all of the cost for this project applied to the lands owned by the petitioner. Factors favorable, unfavorable. Factors favorable to the improvement. Improved surface and subsurface drainage in the watershed. Improved outlet for retention and detention areas. Reduction of future deterioration of surface and subsurface drainage infrastructure. Annual inspections and maintenance of the improvement in perpetuity. Factors unfavorable to the improvement. Temporary land use disruption during construction. Cost of construction and maintenance may be a burden to some landowners. Removal of existing trees and brush in the improvement area. Benefits versus cost. Assessments for property within the watershed are calculated based on the benefits derived. For a project of this nature, it would be reasonable to consider the increased value of land that would result from an improved drainage outlet of which the petitioner is seeking. In this area, an improved outlet would allow for a stormwater drainage system to be designed to an increased capacity, potentially resulting in higher land values. Conclusions. Based on all of the information gathered and generated for this project, I believe this project is technically feasible and would adequately serve the project area's drainage needs. However, the testimony brought to the board by the landowners as to whether the benefits of this project exceed the costs should be given significant consideration in the decision to move forward with this project. Should the current petition be approved to proceed to a final hearing, the petition bond will be returned and detailed plans, specifications, estimated costs, and a schedule of assessments would be prepared. Additionally, a benefits versus cost analysis will also be performed to further determine the feasibility of advancing this proposed project.
Okay. Questions for Mr. Bacon?
None for me.
Well, I think it's kind of a clarification, and we have a letter here that the MI Homes is willing to pay everything. I assume we still will need to go through the process of the second hearing to determine what those costs would in fact be. Is that accurate or inaccurate based on your understanding?
That's accurate, yes. If the project proceeds to the final hearing, we would develop that schedule of assessments that would show all of the costs being direct assessed to the lands that MI owns currently. That may be more than one parcel at that time. That would remain to be seen, but no cost would be assessed to the other parcels covered by the petition.
So it would apply to MI in total if they still own all the property, or whoever buys portions of that property from them?
Correct.
Just wanted clarification.
Yeah, that was a
Yeah.
question I had as well. All right. I didn't really have other questions about...
I apologize. I do have a follow-up question on that.
Sure.
Will that, as properties are sold, will that be in the agreement so there's no question later about that new owner being responsible? Shouldn't that be, that's a question, but it's a question. If it doesn't get answered, it could be a problem later. It needs to be clear to that new landowner that they have that responsibility in total with the other MI property.
Yes, those issues, that comes up frequently, where a construction assessment is not necessarily paid off at the time that a property is sold, and that does become a matter between the seller and the buyer at that point. Once if the construction assessment is not paid in full up front per the stipulations of 6131, then it does go on the real estate taxes for the term that the board would set at the final hearing, and at that point, that property would be responsible for paying that. Often what we see is that matter is settled up as a matter of closing.
I guess my question is, could a new owner say, I don't like that agreement, I want the other owner or owners in the area to pay their part? I'm just asking to make sure any agreements reflect that so that doesn't become an issue legally down the road for anybody.
No. Once the board would approve the schedule of assessments at the final hearing, there would be no cost that could be assessed to those downstream lands.
If any property is sold between now and then, that won't be an issue.
No, I wouldn't anticipate, no.
What about if, because right now there's one main parcel that's being developed and subdivided. What happens with the assessments, both construction and maintenance, when that big parcel is split into small parcels, subdivided?
The base for the parent parcel, when that parcel is split, is divided amongst the parcels that are created from the parent parcel. And that's something that we do. We look at that once a year within our office. We actually go through all of the projects that we have on maintenance and look at where splits have happened, and sometimes they're not splits, they're actually combinations, and adjust the bases accordingly.
Okay.
So that is something that we do look at.
Same dollar pool just gets split into
Correct.
the number of parcels based
Correct.
on...
If the assessor, and we'll use a maintenance assessment, if a parcel's base is $10,000 and it's a 10-acre parcel, and that 10 acres is split into 2 5-acre parcels, then each of those 5-acre parcels likely is going to be $5,000 each. But the total amount is going to be, wouldn't exceed the $10,000.
Okay.
And the letter states that MI will either pay for the design and construction of the project directly or pay a portion of the project directly and allow for the balance to be assessed solely to the lots
Yes.
within Scioto Ridge. Okay, and that's when you're saying the last part then, MI may just pay for part of this, and then at the end, then the buyer would
Right.
be assessed. Okay.
But in either case, the other two lot owners will not be paying,
Correct.
not be assessed anything.
Correct. Yes.
And we're just trying to make sure that they're protected short-term and long-term.
Make sure
There
it's
could be a
clear.
misunderstanding, and I think that's our purpose of the question.
Yes, absolutely.
Right. Okay. Other questions for Mr. Bacon?
I think if anyone speaks in favor, I guess we...
Yeah, okay, well, we'll move on then. Thanks, Scott, or Brett. We will now hear from all those in favor of the petition. Oh, do I have an oath?
Drawer in front of you.
Hang on a second. There it is. All right.
My name is Jason Francis. I'm with MI Homes. I'm going to go ahead and choose to speak at this point in favor, but that requires a little bit of an explanation. I wrote the letter that was provided.
Well, let me swear you in first.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No problem. If you could state your name and address. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God.
I do.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
You may proceed.
Okay, again, my name is Jason Francis with MI Homes. I provided the letter, and it is our intent that as the cost estimates are further refined and we proceed towards the second hearing, it is our intention to cover the cost of the improvement projects. The second portion of the letter that I provided, in which I had indicated the possibility of paying a portion of it, with a portion of it being allocated over the platted or the future platted lots of Scioto Ridge Crossing, was just a little bit because of the unknown costs associated with the project. But it is our intention to cover the cost of the project. I want to elaborate a little bit further as to some items that have taken place since the petition was first filed. I'm going to read a brief statement. The property over which the project would primarily be constructed is owned by the Ross family. Prior to filing the petition, the folks that we purchased the property from, the Scioto Ridge Crossing LLC, per our purchase agreement, had attempted to secure easements for the project so that we could develop the property and provide the storm outlet and the drainage improvement as a part of the Scioto Ridge Crossing development. They were not able at the time to obtain the easements needed. Since the public viewing here on October 2nd, when I met Mr. Ed Ross for the first time, I had spoken with him a couple times previously, but since that meeting, we have been able to secure easements from the Ross family, easements that we believe will be necessary and sufficient for us to make the public drainage improvements as a part of the future development of the Scioto Ridge Crossing project. So I'm providing testimony here today to state that we believe the petition process may no longer be necessary. The public improvement, we believe, can be completed by ourselves as a part of the future development of the Scioto Ridge Crossing development. I'm going to leave it at that. I was discussing this with the staff from the Franklin County Drainage Engineers, and there may be a little bit more to it than what I described here, because we are at a point in the process where we have not completed final engineering for this. So although we have secured easements that we believe can cover the future public improvement, the storm drainage outlet, we don't have final engineering approved by the Delaware County Engineer's Office. So there's just a little bit of ambiguity in that regard. Otherwise, I'm here to answer any questions you might have.
At this point, we're just hearing from those in favor of the petition. I'm assuming, Rob has a comment?
Excuse me. Rob Riley, Chief Deputy Engineer. When you saw us huddling earlier together outside, that we were discussing how we were going to recommend proceeding with this matter. As you heard from Mr. Francis, MI has been working on getting the easements from the downstream property owners, and it sounds like they have obtained those, but we have not yet approved the final engineering to place all the improvements in those easements. So what we are recommending today, if you would wish to proceed this way, is to continue the hearing until either MI completes the engineering using those easements, or for any reason they are unable to use those easements and have to resort back to this petition, they would be able to do that. But at this point, we don't yet have enough information to recommend one way or another, and so we would recommend continuing this hearing until there's a resolution to that.
Process-wise, we would table it.
We would close this hearing and then we
I'm sorry, what, Jennifer?
Sorry.
Sarah?
You would continue the hearing, but you have to continue it to a date and time certain, and any notification that was given of this meeting will serve for the notification for that future meeting as well.
Okay. So do we have a date certain?
How much time do you need?
Yep. Mr. Francis?
Do I need sworn in again? No. Okay. In discussing with the county engineering staff, we believe 12 months would be sufficient for us to have final engineering approved and know for sure that we can proceed with the easements we've secured.
Okay. So we can continue the hearing for 12 months? Do we need, and we do need to set a date and time? See the,
Scott, could you?
I don't know if we want to continue the hearing that long. Do you think it will actually take 12 months to?
No, that was conservative.
Yeah.
I believe 6 months we'll have engineering through. 12 months is more likely for construction.
Okay.
But 6 months would give us the opportunity to.
Yeah, I don't want to continue to get the hearing so long that now, if it falls through that the design can't be done using the easements they've acquired, I don't want them to have to wait for 12 months. So maybe.
Could we do 3 or 4 months?
That's what I asked.
We can always continue it.
we can just hold it, open it, and
That way we don't.
Expedite the engineering on our end to make.
Okay.
Yeah.
So maybe 3 or 4 months. I think that 4 months.
Take us into March. Well, it's November 30th, it'd be end of February. December, January, February, no, it'd be end of March.
We can always have, if we need to have a hearing prior to 6 months, I think we could bring that to the commissioners to schedule
Can
something.
they move it up?
Would there be any?
Scott, introduce yourself.
Yeah.
Scott Stevens, Administrator, Delaware SWCD. If you were to continue the hearing today, and let's just say we pick 6 months, and for whatever reason, 30 days from now, we would decide to reconvene the hearing prior to that 6-month date, would there be any way to no?
Yeah.
No.
That's what it
All
sounds
right.
like.
So probably doing something on the shorter term, and
Yeah, we can-
if we need to continue it again, I hate to gather everybody again, I guess prematurely, or repeatedly, if that's what's required.
We'll be here.
I know. Right, Mondays and Thursdays, right,
Yeah.
without fail. I don't know, what are we, 5 months? Does that seem reasonable? You'll have your engineering secured, and Jason, hope.
Engineering and have it to the county.
Okay.
Just go through the normal review and approval process.
If we have it too long, could it theoretically delay
Yeah.
developers starting if there's a problem? I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
I'd rather have a
If you
date.
fall through,
Yeah.
if private initiative falls through, we've got to wait until the continuance date.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, 6 months, 4 to 6, anywhere in that range is fine.
Right. Okay. Rob,
We recognize the risk.
it's your engineering approval.
So sometime in, it sounds like maybe April, March or April.
Well, if we have
Do early April?
Thursday, April 26th would be a.
That's 5 months.
Here you
If
go.
not ready, we can
Continue it again.
reconvene and continue again. That is
Right.
acceptable. as well.
Okay.
So if we do 10 a.m. on Thursday, April 26th, 2018.
And you're nodding, so you're in agreement with that?
Yes, I am, thank you.
Okay. That day will work, sounds like, for all parties. Okay?
We should have at least two of you here, right?
Yeah.
Or can the president continue the hearing with, we don't need a vote, do we? Can the president?
There should be a vote to continue the hearing.
Okay,
Continue.
so
What was the date?
I guess, should we open it up to see if anybody wants to speak in favor and opposed to it?
I'm sorry.
We haven't gone through if
You're not-
anybody's opposed.
If you still would like to continue the hearing part today, that's fine, and then when you're finished with today's hearing, instead of closing the hearing, we'll continue.
Yeah.
until the
I guess I may as well go through the process. I don't think there's anybody here to speak against it, but I just want to, is there anybody else who wants to speak in favor? Nobody else wants to speak in favor, so now I'll open it up to anybody who wants to speak in opposition. I don't see anybody going to the podium, so,
Then I will move to continue this hearing on date of April 26th at 10 o'clock.
Second.
all right, any further discussion? Okay, we'll take a vote.
That will be resolution number 17-1273, in the matter of continuing the public hearing for consideration of the Scioto Crossing LLC drainage improvement petition filed by Scioto Ridge Crossing LLC. Mr. Benton?
Aye.
Mr. Merrill?
Aye.
Mrs. Lewis?
Aye.
All right, so we will continue that hearing, and now we need to close, or no, we don't close this hearing. So now,
We have...
that hearing is continued, so we don't have any other business?
Yeah, we have,
We have a wellness discussion.
A wellness discussion.
Still in
Yes.
session.
So we are still in session,
We are still in session.
and now we have a wellness discussion. Hey, Rob, have you heard of Topgolf? You've heard of Topgolf, haven't you?
Yes, I've played Topgolf.
Have you? Okay. Pretty cool. Good, good.
Oh, really?
Oh, okay, okay. Well, it's should be good.
Here's your
Oh, okay.
12. Yeah, 122.
There we go.
Good, are you?
put this back in there.
Okay.
But you were there for it. I wasn't sure there was one in here. I just checked.
Nope, there it is right there.
Thank you. Morning.
Morning. How are you? Good,
Good,
good.
thank you.
Started. Are you ready? We are.
All right, we will continue our session. Turn it over to Dawn. You're going to kick things
Yeah,
off?
just real quickly, I wanted to mention before we introduce Tori, over the last year, Cindy Blair and representatives from SEBCO and Anthem have had numerous meetings at the department level to talk about wellness and the wellness incentive, as well as how our benefits package can help employees to save money and get the best bang for their buck when they're needing doctor's assistance. And with that, we have seen a 36% increase in our wellness program participation, which is awesome. I think 2018 will be our 5th year with the wellness program in place. Fourth year? Okay. And over the years, it has increased, but not to the significance of this. So I just really want to say a kind word and plug to Cindy for making that happen, because there was a lot of time and effort put into that. And we actually have 2 additional meetings coming up next week at the Sheriff's Office, and one in the daytime and one in the evening, so that we can make sure that we are able to get to all of those deputies that work different hours. So that said, Tori Sinclair with Subco has been going around to the counties to talk about the wellness programming and the things that Subco has put into place in different counties as well as here in ours, and wants to talk about some of the things that we can maybe do or think about going forward to ensure that the wellness program is growing and the participation is growing and that our employees are getting what they need from the program, and then in turn the benefits package. So I'm going to turn it over to Tori, and we're glad you're here.
Thank you, Dawn. I appreciate it. So as Dawn had mentioned, my name is Tori Sinclair. I do manage the wellness program for Subco. Have managed that program for 5 years, for Delaware County and for the other 32 counties that are currently on our plan. And what we have come I guess I'm here to share with you what we've come to understand in the last 5 years. We do have 5 counties on the plan currently that are doing an incentive above and beyond the cash incentive that we provide. And what we have found is that those are very effective incentives in counties in a number of ways, and so I wanted to come today to share that with you. I will mention that this is all preliminary. Everything that we're discussing today, is it an intent we're hoping will occur? We're hoping to move away from a cash incentive in future years and either rely on the county to implement an incentive, and I'll talk through those different types of incentives and what they are, or we could implement something different on our level, and we're going to talk through those options as well. So, my intention is to come, let you know what we have come to understand in terms of incentives, talk to you about those 5 counties that have done aggressive incentives, how they've worked well, why they've worked well, and then hopefully try to get your feedback today on some of the things that we talk about. Would it be doable in Delaware County? If you'd like to sit on it, think about it, and get back to us. I don't have to have an answer today either. So just kind of want to set the tone with that. So you do have a packet in front of you that has all the data that we're going to talk about today. The meeting purpose is at the bottom of page 1. I'm going to talk a little bit about best practices on incentives, explain to you what our concerns are with our current cash incentive that we've been giving for the past 3 years and that we're committed to give for a 4th year in 2018. Provide to you the details on those county level incentives that I just talked about that are working and are very effective in counties, and we're actually going to talk about who those 5 counties are and what they've been doing, and then discuss what some of the other potential options are to you if Delaware County should not be interested in doing something different themselves, if you don't want to be the initiator and the driver of that, if that makes sense. So turning to page 2, if you look at the bottom, this is Interactive Health's experience with wellness incentives, and if you don't know who Interactive Health is, they're the vendor partner that we contract with to offer the incentive program. For the past 3 years, we were partnered with a company called Staywell Health Management, but in year 4, 5, and 6, we have a commitment with Interactive Health to administer the program on our behalf. But this is what they see with their clients. Interactive Health is a company that's been around for 25 years. And you can see as the value of the benefit gets larger and larger, the participation or the completion rate in the program you can expect to get larger and larger. So once we get to a $600 annual incentive or more, that's where we can expect a 75% engagement rate among the population that's eligible to do the program. If you'll turn over to page 3, this is kind of latest research on incentives. We do know that we have roughly about 75 employers nationwide that offer wellness incentives in relation to their wellness program in order to drive behavior change by encouraging that participation. The annual incentive in 2016 was $651. That increased this year to $742. So that's the annual incentive. That's what's standard to the industry, $600 to $700 in relation to a wellness incentive. And then for about every $100, we can expect about a 10% increase in engagement. So that's some just research that we did for you there. And then when you look at the RFP responses, so we did go out to bid. We do that in-house through Subco this year for the wellness vendor. That's how we ended up making the switch from Staywell Health Management to Interactive Health. But when we put out the RFP this year, this was one of the questions on the RFP. And you can see we had 15 companies respond to that RFP nationwide. 10 of them answered this particular question, which was based on your experience, what do you recommend in terms of the annual amount and the type of for incentives? And you can see when you look down the line on annual amount, there are some of them that do give a pretty wide range. However, when you go and average that, we're back to about the $600 to $700 amount again. And under type, you'll notice, some of them didn't answer the question, but none of them that did answer the question say cash. None of them say gift card. All of them are saying the same thing here. They're just using some different terminology: premium differential, premium reduction, an incentive tied to the medical plan. Okay? So switching gears on page 4, I want to talk a little bit about some of the numbers, which will explain our current concern with the cash incentive. So in 2015, just employees in the SEBCO population were able to engage in the program. That was who was eligible. 16% of the employees SEBCO-wide completed the program. And when you factor the amount of checks that we cut back to counties at the end of the year, when we add all the incentive checks up, we spent just under $272,000. Then when you look at 16, we did include spouses then in 16. So we added a population as eligible for the program in 2016. And you can see the total engagement rate for that population, employees and spouses together, was 20.4%. Yet when you look at the amount that we paid out in 2016, it was just under $563,000. Now, we've had people that will ask, and maybe you're thinking, well, there's only about not quite a 5% increase here. How's come the incentive doubled? Well, that's because we do offer a tiered program, and we did have a number of counties, or pretty much every county, that moved up a tier. So that meant everybody moved up at least $50 or maybe $100 in terms of what they could earn. So the incentives increased, okay? And then in 2017, this is just an estimation because I don't have the final numbers yet, but I can tell you based on what I know, we're going to be pretty close to this, probably just under it. We expect to just under about $755,000. So I think note 1 on this slide really gets at the point here. So in 2016, the cash incentives accounted for 44% of the total cost of the incentive program. And when you factor in our grant program, which we also have, cash incentives accounted for a third of the total cost of the SEBCO Wellness Program in its entirety. So you can see that cash incentives are yielding low completion rates, yet over time we have a feeling that the cash amount that we're spending is going to become unsustainable. And that actually leads to the next slides that show you this. So we just, on the top table here, assumed if we kept the cash incentive the same as what it is, at $150 to $200. Where would we be, assuming that we would continue to trend at about a 6% increase each year with that? We would be at about $1.5 million by 2020, which is the end of this contract year with Interactive Health. But let's say we just simply doubled those numbers. From $150 to $200, now we're at $300 to $400, which is the bottom table. We can expect because of that increase, we would have an increase in engagement, and by 2020, we would be at about $3.5 million we would need to pay incentives back at that amount to counties. However, $300 to $400 is still nowhere near what is standard at $600 to $700 a year, right? So then the bottom of page 5 shows you what our 2016 incentives were and the completion rates for the counties that are on our plan. So we had 7 counties that gave $100 cash or gift card. Those counties had an average completion rate of 10% of their total population completing the program. But when you get down to the bottom there, the counties that are doing these premium differentials, either in the form of a reduction in premium to people that complete the program or in the form of a premium surcharge to people who do not complete the program, that's where we see about a 50% total completion rate for the population that can engage in the program. And their employee completion rates are much higher. So if you turn to the next page, this shows you those counties. You can see the 5 of them are listed here. What I have is the total employee completion rates for 2016 in these counties, their total completion rate overall, and that total completion rate obviously would include the spouses in the program, and then how they ranked among the 33 SEBCO counties on the plan. So these are the top completers. And then I thought, you know what, I'm going to go back to some reports here and pull the health risks and see if there's any correlation, because all of these counties, with the exception of Preble, have been doing these incentives 5 or more years. So these counties did not implement incentives tied to their premiums. When we launched our program, these counties had an incentive program on their own before we did. And of course, they started offering ours when we started offering the program in 2015. So these counties have all, with the exception of Preble, been doing this 5 to 10 years, okay? But I thought, let me go back and let me look at their average health risks. So you can see here, these counties have the highest completion rates, but they have some of the lowest health risks among their population on the plan. The first county here is at 2.8. There is no other county that has an average of 2.8 health risk per person on the plan. They're the lowest. So I think, over time, it's great. We want engagement in the program. We want people to focus on their health and be doing the right things throughout the year. But over time, it's going to drive the health risk down within that population, which is what you want, because health risks, high health risks, could end up, driving claims. And so we want to control that there. That's the point of the program. Then I go into each individual county and kind of want to explain what they're doing. So if you look at the top of page 7, the first county here is doing a flat annual surcharge. And so what they did, and they're the ones that are newest to this, but in 2015, they decided that they were going to do a surcharge of $25 per pay for anybody that did not complete the blood work, which is just one component of, it's the core component of the program. Now, after 3 years of doing it, folks in that county have to complete the program in its entirety in order to not have the surcharge. So they are doing $600 annually or $25 per pay in this county, and they do retain those funds to offset the cost of their benefits in general, the additional premium that they're taking in. The second county here does the very exact same thing, except for the setup's a little bit different, where they're doing a % of premium. So in this particular county, the county picks up 88% of the premium, leaving all the employees to pick up 12% of the monthly premium. That 12%, once it's calculated, then is considered the wellness rate. Then what they do is they take 50% of that wellness rate and add it on. So in the case of a family plan, $127 for the wellness rate now becomes $184 monthly for the non-wellness rate. And they're doing the same thing as the first county, where they're retaining those funds to offset the cost of benefits in general. They've been at this since 2010. Then when you look at the other 2 examples we have here, the first county is doing a plan design differential. This is at the top of page 8. Where the county simply enrolls all of the wellness completers in their low deductible plan and all their non-wellness completers in the high deductible plan. So the contributions are the same here. Doesn't matter if the employee is on the low or high deductible, they're going to pay the same contribution. The county's going to pick up the same contribution. So their incentive here is really in their deductible. The fact that there's a $1,600 deductible on a family plan at the low rate and $4,000. On the family plan at the high rate. So I've had commissioners ask me, well, if you're healthy and you don't really use your benefits, you don't go to the doctor, consider yourself well, why would you care? Because you're going to pay the same amount, you're not going to use your medical benefits, why not do the program and just be on the high deductible? But this county's really worked with messaging here with the population to kind of let employees know not to play Russian roulette with that. You just never know what can happen if you need to use your benefits. You don't do the wellness program, you're going to be on that much higher deductible and have to pay that out of pocket. Then Union and Seneca County, they're both doing an employee monthly contribution differential. This is Union County's example. I don't show Seneca's here, but they've both been at this a number of years. And in Union County, what they do is they simply pick up 85% of that monthly premium for the wellness completer and only 75% for the non-wellness completer. But their differential is very large. So on their single plan, the difference in what a wellness completer and a non-wellness completer would pay is $816. And it's almost $2,500 on a family plan. So there's, and they also, in Union County, require the spouse to do the program with the employee in order for the employee to get that better rate and pay that $800 less the next year if they're on a single plan, or, $2,400 less if they're on the family plan. And then Seneca County has a very similar setup. Their differential is a little less, but they've been the longest county at this since 2008. So they've been in it for 10 years. So moving to the top of page 9, this is just a big if. So we are trying to explain to counties the logic behind why we would like to move away from a cash incentive. Again, the intent is to move away from it, but it's not 100% set in stone. We're trying to come out to each county, talk with them about this, get you to understand why it's important that we do it, get your feedback, and then figure out the best way to move forward. So, but if we were to move away from it, this would not take effect until January 1st, 2020. Because again, we are committed to a cash incentive in 18. So what would happen is the incentive would be in relation to the 19 program. Anybody that did or didn't complete in 19 would get that better benefit or better rate in 2020. We would probably set up some guidelines for counties, and those are highlighted here. And then I also mentioned the federal wellness regulations that state that you can't do a differential more than 30% of the total cost of the single plan. So there is a maximum amount that you would be able to reward or penalize in the form of a wellness incentive.
Is the cash incentive taxable to the employee?
Yes.
So the employee would be better off having a lower premium than having a taxable incentive?
If they feel like
Because
having
they-
the tax is a negative thing, yes. So
Because they'll save, 20, 30, 39%, depending on what tax bracket they're in.
Yep. So most people would not, it is not arguable, so cash is taxable, a premium differential is not, obviously.
So that
And then I
saves-
have heard quite a number of counties have said, when they look at this at a county level, that elected officials would be eligible for a premium differential as well, because it's not considered increased compensation.
Not compensation, not the
Correct,
cash.
and that would have to be decided on county by county, but that is my understanding in talking with a number of them. And I mean, we have talked to our attorney as well, and he feels the same way, as long as the county would agree. So that is a nice thing as well, because we do have that issue every year, where we have to look at each elected official that may have done the program and then figure out how to administer the incentive based on that particular situation.
Is part of the receptiveness or the success of the premium differential program versus cash incentive because the employees recognize they save taxes on the one and not on the other?
Yeah, I mean...
Do you think they understand
Yeah,
that?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know because 100% what the logic is. That could be it. I mean, I do know in our counties that give cash and gift card, there is a lot of noise that they hear around the fact that it's taxable. And in fact, when I go in and talk with employees, the counties always say, please, please mention that it is taxable and make that very clear, because I mean, if people don't know about that, I mean, it is considered a bonus. And sometimes people think we make that rule, and I'm like, no, that's IRS. But it's really not my fault, I promise. But for whatever reason, we do hear a lot of negativity around that. When you look across the board, even when you ask the employee population, what do you want, people will say, because Aon's done some recent research for us on it, and they showed that people want it tied to the medical plan over a cash incentive. So, and it would be very difficult for us ever to do a cash incentive at $600 to $700. That's just not feasible. But a differential, it can be set up, and you can talk those amounts when you're
Is that part of the
doing it
messaging
that way.
then, that the employees or the counties that use the premium differential, is it part of the messaging that, hey, you're going to save on, if I give you a $600 check, you're going to pay $150 in taxes, but if I give you a $600 reduction in your premiums, you pay no additional taxes?
Yeah, I think that varies by county, but it's something, I mean, yeah, it depends on the population, but I think some of them probably do, and it's something we could definitely bring up, because I think it does play a role, and it's important for people to understand, I think.
Yes.
So looking at just some of the other potential options, so what I've just talked to you about, we just got 2 more pages to get through here, is just what we have understood is really successful at the county level, okay? But we could also do a different incentive at our level other than cash. So the option 1 here, and this is kind of everything that we've discussed, because I want you to understand this has been a year in the making to get to here. We have really sat down, talked with consultants, talked with our board of directors, talked with all of our vendors, had a lot of conversations internally to make sure, are we missing any other options? And so we've tried to leave no stone unturned here with this. So option 1 would be for us to provide 2 rates to the counties. We could do that as a cost-neutral design, where we could charge more premium to non-completers and give people a break, so that you get back to the initial premium that needs to be collected. We could do that in a surcharge, which is the second option here. It does become a little bit complicated from a rate-setting perspective. I don't think it's Aon's favorite selection, because they do all of the rate setting based on the last 12 months claims history for each county. But it is certainly something that is doable and something we could do. The second option at the bottom, this is what Aon Hewitt has, our consultant has told us is pretty standard for what they see for consortiums, groups that are set up like us, where we would provide two rates, but all the counties that had a better than 50%, let's say, engagement rate would get the better rate, and all the counties that had less than a 50% engagement rate would get, the worst rate. Not my favorite of them, not something that we're really planning to look at and move forward with, but I wanted you to understand that we did consult them and this was their recommendation. Then the other thing that we could do at the bottom here is in a plan design differential, where we could simply offer two plans, okay, and where people would get a more rich plan if they did the program and the less rich plan if they did not do the program.
Typically through deductibles?
Yeah, co-pays, deductibles, out-of-pocket maxes, co-insurance, all of that. Yeah.
Not necessarily coverages.
No, right, correct. Yep, it would all be in what you pay out of pocket.
Okay.
Yep, and the contributions would be the same, obviously, for those. So that's another option. And then the appendix, we'll just cover that quickly. That's on the very back side, just on the timing, so you kind of understand. So, we did implement this program in 2015, and you can see for each year that we've been doing it, we've paid a cash payment back to counties, which then goes back to all of the completers in December of each year. But if we were to do something different in 19, rather than get a cash incentive in December of 19, it would be effective in the benefits somehow January 1, 2020. So I think I kind of already talked through that, but I just wanted to make sure that was clear on cash incentives get paid out at the end of the year, but if you're doing something tied to the benefits, it's effective the following year.
Where is Delaware County in terms of participation?
We were discussing that before the meeting. I would have to look back at but I'm guessing you're somewhere about middle. You probably have about half of our counties that are above you and about half that are below you. I could go back and look to make sure that's 100% correct, but that's just my guess and kind of how I've kind of just off of memory.
But in terms of percent?
Within the
You had 36% of your employees
We
or of your
went up
total population?
36%.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We have 188 completers this year.
788? 188.
So you guys that's
So,
what, you have 1,400 eligible?
No, there's
Not
only-
quite.
Yeah.
With spouses, you have about 14, because I'm picturing it in my mind. You're the largest
Close to
county on our plan right
20%.
now.
1,200, say, three-fourths have spouses, that's 2,100, 2,200?
You're saying 188 employees?
We have 188 completers.
Completers.
Spouses,
Is
and-
that spouse?
that's
Okay.
pretty dismal.
That is probably 10%
Right.
then.
Less
Less than 10%, yeah.
So she-
25%.
yeah. So she's saying you had 188 completers, that would include employees and spouses, and I'm saying of the employees and spouses that are eligible, I'm pretty sure it's about 1,400 total, not, when you include the spouses that are on the plan too that
Kids
could
don't
partake.
participate.
Kids do not participate. We do
Well,
not.
if we have 1,200 employees, what percentage of our employees have insurance with us?
75%.
90%?
We only have like 890 on the plan.
Okay, 890, and let's say 75% probably have spouses?
So I'm pretty sure you got about 1,400. Like I'm,
That sounds about right.
1,400?
yeah,
So it's a little
total. It's a little bit above that, but you're in the 1,400 range for total people that would be eligible. That's employees and spouses, everybody that's on the
Way
plan.
below Union County.
Union County, yeah, you're going to be a lot larger group. Is that what you're asking?
Percentage-wise.
Oh, yeah, they have 80%. They have 8 out of every 10 of their employees do the program.
I have 2 or 3 questions? Sure. Yeah, it's surprised you doesn't. No. First of all, just have a average health risk. I assume that when you say that, do you smoke, do you don't smoke, do you?
Yeah.
And what
So-
kind of things are,
Sure. So they look at, this is the report that Statewell gives us every year, county by county, and they look at 13 different health risks. Now, I don't have those all 13 off the top of my head, but age would be one, weight would be one, tobacco use would be one, alcohol use would be another, high blood pressure, high cholesterol. So they're looking at self-reported data, because not everything can be clinically collected, but they're also going to look at that clinically collected blood work to factor in the average number of health risks per person.
but you only have it for those who participate in the program.
That is correct.
But the ones who are, so it really, a lot of those health risks are very subjective.
Well, so the 2.8 health risks on average are going to be for you're right, the 80% of the population that engage. You're probably always going to have a 15 to 20% that don't engage, that we won't have any information on because they don't. And so, yeah, there's a population out there that will never engage, that will probably always impact claims and may be unhealthy or may not be, because we don't know, we don't have the data.
So I'm kidding here. So if you have one employee who's perfect, and you only have one employee on the program, then you'd have a perfect situation.
Right, yeah.
My point is, it's a little subjective. It's not.
You get adverse, or not adverse selection, positive selection.
Yep.
Probably the healthier people are going to do it. And less
Sure, and I think you're always going to have, on your plan and your population, you will have a variation of people on that health spectrum, absolutely.
I have 2 or 3 comments. First of all, obviously this is an effort to move the cost of the program from SEPCO to the individual counties. The theory of that being ultimately, long-term, the cost of insurance will go down for everybody.
Right.
Okay, but
Yeah.
just a statement.
Yep.
One of the things I know we'll hear at some point, because I've heard it before, the cost of administrating a program like this, we'll have to add a person. So, and you're smiling. So if you have to add a person, that's another $50,000 a year with benefits. There's a cost there. So the program has got to be a program that does not require adding a person. I think for us to, otherwise that's a cost you have to factor into it.
Sure.
One of those costs of administrating is you're going to enroll people in the wellness program end of the year for the next year, I assume. Is that how it works?
We just sent out the information yesterday, so we sent out the information for next year. It's early right now, but we wanted to get the information.
But my point is you sign up for the next year at some point,
Yes.
and a new employee, I assume, signs up when they start, or do they have to wait till the next year?
No, they're eligible
When they sign. Okay, my question is, somebody says, I don't smoke, but do you find out they do smoke? Somebody signs up for the program, and some of the events and things you have to do, they don't do. So how do you, this is a question, it's part of administrating if you're going to do it correctly, how do you take them off the program when you find out they're not fulfilling the spirit of the program?
So there's no way for us to take somebody off of the program. I mean, the program is
I'm pointing, then why wouldn't you just lie and say, I'm going to participate to get the lower rate? I mean, you've got to have,
The rate differential,
can't.
you would have to achieve your points or however the program is set up, say, in 2018 to get the rate differential in 2019.
so the first year of this program, there will be no
You've
discount.
already done 2018, in 19 you're being rewarded for that with the lower rate.
So if this program can start in 2020, people are going to sign
It
up,
would be 19, and then 20 would be the rate differential.
so you're going to let people know in advance that,
Yeah, there would be a lot.
so you're probably going to have the old cash and spending program in place and this program, so you have a barometer.
Not give a cash incentive.
I'm sorry?
At the end of 2019, there would be no cash incentive. You're working 2019 to get the rate differential for 20. Does that make more sense?
I understand that, but I think when you're talking about giving somebody an incentive down the road, a year away, based on things they did this year, I'm not sure they're going to react as aggressively as you would like them to react. I think what you have to do is continue the current program in 2019, give them the cash, so they're still getting something in 2019. But that's also going to, they're told a year earlier, that's also going to be a barometer on how you're going to be treated in 2020. I think if you want it to work.
I can tell you for the counties that I know of that have done this. And I was just in a county yesterday that is doing this. So as I've been out talking about this exact information with other counties, Many of them are electing to do this in 2019 in relation to the 2018 year because they see the logic behind it and the value in it. So what I will say is for this county that I was in yesterday that is now implementing it, and they've made that announcement, there was 95 people-ish in the first meeting that I had and another 45 in the second meeting. So I think once you put incentives in place like this, people will say yes. There's one county in here that's in this presentation. They were very bottom of the participation the first year that we had it, and then when they implemented an incentive, they jumped up to the top 5. So it is immediate. I mean, I understand where you're coming from, where you think, well, maybe people won't really be
Well, I don't understand why
interested,
SEPCO is
but-
currently paying it through 2019. Why wouldn't SEPCO continue to pay those cash incentives as you've been paying in 2019 with the understanding it's going to transition to a different program in 2020, but 2019 is going to be your base year?
Yeah, and I hear what you're saying, and I think that is something we would look at and potentially do.
If you want to be successful, I think
Right.
you're almost
I
safe.
have had a number of other commissioners bring that up. I mean, it really is a 2-week difference because cash incentives usually get paid out middle of December, and this would be effective January 1st, so there's really a 2-week difference in when you would earn your incentive. But we do have a number of counties, I think there's 5, maybe 6 that I can think of that are moving ahead of it, but people will essentially get a double incentive in 18. They'll get the cash plus the better rate or the better plan in 19. And then in 2020, they would only get, because if we do away with cash, they're only going to get, so I don't really recommend it because I think people are going to get double incentive in that case in 2018.
Well,
Does that make sense?
well, no, because that's not what I said. I said if you start the program in 2020,
Yeah. Start the incentive, the premium differential in 2020.
2019 is your base year to determine
Yep.
whether you're going to qualify or not. It would be a better received program if you still had the program in place in 2019 as it is currently. So you get that $200 at the end of the year, if that's what it is. So there's no negative, but that's also your base year for 2020.
Well, then people will expect cash and a premium differential the following year. So I did understand what you were saying.
There's no reason they would expect that. If you tell them in 2018 when they sign for 19, in 2019, it'd be the last year we give cash, which is also going to be the barometer we're going to use to determine who qualifies for this program in 2020. There's no expectation of cash in 2020, no more so than it would be now.
Yeah.
You do it 19, there's an expectation in 20. Anyway.
Okay.
It's clear to me. I'm paying
Yeah,
attention.
no, I mean, I am following you. I understand what you're saying, yes.
One of the concerns that, now spouses qualify, currently on our program, does a spouse get the $200 or just employee? Okay, and I know the number 600 was tossed around. We have to be very, very careful that we don't create a program that encourages spouses to move from their insurance company to ours. So you got to be really, really careful with those incentives. If we're the best program in the county, we encourage spouses to leave their program and come to our program. County cannot afford that. So we have to be very careful with how because the cost of the insurance goes up the more people we're insuring. So we have to be careful how we put that together. You look like you don't understand what I just said.
No, I understand what you're saying. But if we moved away from cash to this premium differential, that wouldn't factor into it. Because
If the premium differential makes our program cheaper than where they're currently getting their insurance, it would encourage them to switch.
well, it depends on how you set it up. If you set it up in the form of a surcharge,
So it gets down to what our contribution is as employees. We'll probably have to continue to address that. All I'm saying is, we have to make sure unintended consequences, that we don't put together a program that encourages people to shift to the county's program versus whoever.
Sure. We have a number of counties that have spousal, riders and, those types of things in place too, so that if the spouse has an opportunity to take insurance, they can't be on the plan, period. So that is an option. It has nothing to do with the wellness program, it's the benefit side of stuff,
I
but
have
it's
one
an
last
option.
question, I'll be done, I promise. Are all rates determined by our experiences, or is it determined by all the counties that participate in the program's experiences? Because if you have a wellness program and you have better experiences, are you rewarded that through cheaper cost, or if it's spread out over everybody, you don't get that reward.
Nope, so your rates are based on your individual claims experience for your county, for your population that's on the plan.
So if it improves, therefore we benefit from that.
That is exactly
That's
correct.
your sales point.
That's right.
Do you have data on the most successful programs over the time that shows the premium control or increase? I mean,
So we're currently looking at that. For these 5 counties, we're going to go back. Some of them haven't been on our plan long enough. So Richland was new to us 1/1/17, so we don't have historical rate data for them on our plan. But we are going to go back and look at the top 5 or 10 counties and see if we can. Now, I know that there is one particular county that did get a particular high. They've been at this, I believe they're one of the longer ones, 7, 8, 9 years, and they did get a higher rate, again, because they probably had some things. Not everything is controllable through this program. There's going to be things health-related that are going to happen with people that are going to drive claims that have nothing to do with this program because they're not preventable. There's nothing that we can do about it. So that will always, I mean, if you have a high claim and it's not preventable or lifestyle-related, obviously it's going to be in your claims experience and it's going to drive your rates. So we are going back to look at that to see if we can pull any data, because it seems like from these meetings that's popping up and the question's being asked a lot, but I don't have it right now. We're going to look at it.
I think to evaluate incentives, that's an important, I understand it's a hard data analysis to look at, but when you look at incentivizing participation, I think it's easier to think about incentivizing if there's going to be a savings.
So I do have...
Insurance premiums go up, so I guess it's controlling there is no savings.
I mean, the cost of health care is going up, like the cost of an apple or a haircut or gasoline, I mean, clothes. So that's going to play into it. But I do have a claims cost analysis that we did this year on all of the wellness folks, everybody who engaged in the wellness program by doing at least one of the core requirements or health coaching, could have done all 3 of those things, could have done one of those 3 things, could have done 2 of those things, versus all of the people SEBCO-wide in the plan who did not engage in a single one of those things. And what we know is that our wellness folks cost an average of $142 less a month than the non-wellness folks for our population. So we did that claims cost analysis for all of 2015 and for the first 3 quarters in 2016. And I will send that to you following this meeting so you can take a look at it.
I'm going to suggest that people who participate in the wellness programs tend to be healthier, therefore it's going to be worse. So that's an erroneous number.
Yeah, and it could be the flip. We really don't know.
So that's a number that really, throwing out there is really unfair as far as making an evaluation.
I mean, there would be no other way to do it other than just to look at the claims costs on them. So I would agree with you. You're going to have healthy people on the plan and unhealthy people on the plan, and, it is what it is. So it could be the opposite, because we can't prove for a fact that the wellness program doesn't play into that either.
Yeah, that's kind of, I echo Commissioner Merrill's comments. But I'm kind of interested in where Mike was going. That is, okay, you've got Union County at almost 80% participation rate, but what is their loss rate overall? What are their total claims per covered life
Versus ours.
versus other counties? And that's where I'm interested in his big picture, because like Commissioner Merrill said, the people who are healthy are going to pick the wellness program and save money.
Yep, I agree. And I think, have you seen the success stories? Any of you else on that as well? So we were able to pull a number of what we're calling success stories from counties that talk about the personal impact that this program's had on people, from saving spouses' lives, to tobacco, quitting tobacco, to weight loss, to, literally people that were miserable that are, have now really are thankful that they got involved in the program and are happier because of it. So it really does impact people at, a personal level as well. But we are looking at doing the rate analysis for the counties that we know have these high engagements.
Yeah, the anecdotal stuff is great, and again, applaud the people who put the effort to improve their health. It's great, but that's anecdotal. I'm looking big picture. What's the total statistical data tell us?
We're working on it. We've been trying to pull data all along. So as soon as we have the next data analysis system up, which at this point, we don't have any time frame on that, but we know that Aon will be able to pull data from there. I'm hoping this year to be able to look at what that looks like for our counties.
It would be pretty simple, I would think, with these 6 counties as your base, number of employees insured versus a cost.
Number of lives insured.
Number of lives, number of people insured.
Not employees.
4,
Right.
divided by the cost that county costs SEPCO. And you can do that for all 6 counties. You can do that for Delaware County. Then we have some idea where we stand compared to these 6 leaders. And in theory, now I realize there's other factors. Who's got the youngest workforce, et cetera. But keeping it as simple as possible, then we know exactly how we compare to the ones that you're using as an example. Are we higher, are we lower, are we right on target? And then we at least have some basis on which to make an evaluation. I think we all want to lower our cost of insurance, just to make sure what we do accomplishes that goal.
Understandable.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're working on it. I'm hoping, like I said, I'm hoping this year we've got some data on a rate analysis. All that I could have done last year was the claims analysis. Unfortunately, we switched data. The warehouse is now, Aon made a switch, and they're looking at moving all that data over, and it's not available yet, and we're not trained on it to use it. So I'm hoping this year we can do that.
I don't mean to be
Do you have
argumentative.
a particular recommendation? Is that what when it says the last slide here, SEPCO on page 10, SEPCO plan differential? Are you recommending a certain?
No. So the plan is, good question. So the plan is for, once I get done meeting with all the counties, which I'm not quite done with that yet, to take all the feedback that we've received, and then for us to come up with a plan based on that, which we know one size doesn't fit all. So just like now, our cash incentive that we give is given in health plan accounts, it's given in a premium reduction, it's given in cash, it's given in gift card. So at the county level, there's all these options that occur. So the plan is for us to come up with, here's some options potentially at your level that you would be able to do if you want to drive the bus, and possibly at our level if you don't want to drive the bus and you want us to drive the bus.
Okay.
And then we would have to obviously run that through our board, and our board would need to approve it this coming year in order for us to do something different in 2019. So that's the plan moving forward. But right now, I'm just in an information gathering phase so that I can come up with a plan that, our intent is not to, financially burden counties with this. So there's some examples here of how that we can ensure that doesn't happen. But we want to make sure whatever we do, the counties are in favor for, and it's something that's going to work for you. And so that's the plan.
No, and I thank you for coming and presenting all the information, too. You did say that research showed that most people don't want, there's the cash incentive, but then there's a big blowback, of course, if people don't realize ahead of time that it's actually taxable.
Right.
Did I understand you to say that it seems as though most people don't prefer the cash incentive, but would prefer premium changes, premium reductions, whatever?
Yeah, I believe that was the information Aon did that data for. I can go back to Terry Copley there and see if she has that, if you want me to share it with you.
Sure, sure,
it was a national survey that was done. So it isn't specific to public sector or anything like that, but it just was, what type of incentives would you prefer when it comes to wellness?
So you're saying it's an IRS rule that it has to be taxable, it's not just Dawn being mean?
No, it's not on being mean. Although I'm sure there are people that think that.
Is anybody doing incentives that would fund, if there's a cash incentive that it would fund like a health savings account? Is that being done by anybody?
Yes, we have one county that's doing that.
Because that wouldn't be taxable.
Yes, it is.
Right, yeah.
And it would help with their health care costs. Anyway, just ask.
You're saying it wouldn't be taxable, yeah.
Is that correct?
Yeah, I'd have to go back to the regular, I've got them all, I believe it's not, but I'd have to check on it to make sure. Okay?
Back up just a little bit, I just want to touch on a couple things. We do have people in success stories, so when you get those, we actually have Delaware County employees. And just to touch base on the point that you brought up about the wellness program and hiring another person, SEPCO isn't saying they're not going to run the program anymore after 2020 potentially. We'll still have access to interactive health program, the portal, all of that, whatever carrier we go to. Nothing would change on our end except how we distributed that incentive. So the incentive part of it is the only thing that we're looking at in the state. So we would still have the full-blown wellness program that they have now.
And I think it's important for you to understand, just to tack onto that, where that money comes from. So we're self-funded, and we sit on a pretty good, it's not astonishing, but it's a pretty good reserve account. It's about $50 million that we sit on, roughly about 4 months' worth of claims. And every year, the board looks at access money, roughly $2 to $3 million of that, and how do we give that back to counties. So, for example, the past 3 years, don't quote me on that, but I believe the past 3 years, they have allocated $2 million to buy down the rates for the entire consortium overall. One of the other things that they do is fund the grant program, which is roughly about $350,000, and they've done that every year since the grant program was put in place in 2011, and that's not intended to go away. We want to keep that intact. That gives counties money to be doing local programming throughout the year. The other thing is that they allocate money for the cash incentives. And you can see as we looked at that, one of the concerns was, is this going to be sustainable? Right now, we're budgeting about $1 million, but we'd like to we want to keep that fully funded well, and there was just a concern, we know that the cash incentive it's not working, so, that's the bottom line there, but also it comes out of that member equity money that is the county money, and all of us that pay premiums into it. So I wanted you to understand how it gets funded, okay? Other questions?
Well, just in closing, I think the concept is good, but I think there's a lot of crossing the T's and dotting the I's. Let's say the contribution from the county is $600 and we use 1,500 people. That's $900,000. If my math is right. I believe it's right, isn't it? And $900,000 is a pretty big, significant part of our total cost anyway, so 5%, probably, roughly.
Again, so if you would set it up in a reward, you're correct. If you set it up in a surcharge, it wouldn't be county money. That would...
Whether it's reward or reduction in premiums, it ends up being a cost to the county in some form.
So if you look at page...
It depends on how you share the premiums.
Page 7.
Yeah.
Page 7, there's 2 examples that do not cost the county money that I shared with you. They're set up the way that those 2 counties do it. Do you understand where I'm coming from there? It's a surcharge.
Which could have cost someone.
Correct. But wouldn't be, I'm just trying to, like if you gave, if you wanted to give $600 to everybody, that would have to come out of, but if you were going to surcharge, it wouldn't.
The point I'm trying to make is it's got to be significant enough that for the employees to participate. So if it's $600 in lower premiums,
sure,
it's still $600.
Yep. And if it's a $600 surcharge,
which we've got to have enough. So everything has to get adjusted to make up that $600 because there's a cost that we're going to have to write a check to you, and it's going to be based on what our experience is. So
some may pay.
Somehow it has to be made up. It's not free money.
Right. No, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Well, again,
Thank you.
Tori, thank you. Very interesting.
I appreciate it.
A lot of discussion, a lot of interesting ideas, and we applaud you for that, and keep us engaged, because this is the largest non-payroll expense the county has and the fastest growing by far. So thank you for working on this. Thank you, everyone.
Sounds good.
Cindy?
Thank you all.
Yep. All right. That is no more presentations, no more hearings.
Unless Jen has something else.
Shoot. I'm bored. All right. We are adjourned. Commissioner Lewis?
All right.
On cue.
Did it.